Somebody, I think George disconnected by mistake, probably. Okay, maybe he connected. Yeah, all right. So we are in the book of Esther, and I hope you can hear me clearly. And as what we've been doing, we will go over each chapter, and I'm sure you all know the story of Esther. And guys, I'm just going to quickly go through the outline of it. And so there was this queen who was actually a young girl, a Jewish girl, who kept her identity a secret. She became the queen of this land, which is Persia, and it is in this place she became King Xerxes' wife, and she was able to save her people, which are the Jews, from destruction, because there was a conspiracy to kill all the Jews. So that's what the story is about, how a young girl who was actually a minority in that land, and how she was able to make a big difference and save so many people. That's what the story is about. Okay, now let's go go through it step by step. Let me take you to chapter 1. Okay, Esther. Now I hope you all know the story of Esther. Okay, just because George, keep track. I just gave in a nutshell how a young girl who's actually a foreigner, an outsider, she becomes the queen. She's from a poor background, but she becomes a queen of that land. It's something like Slumdog Millionaire. And then she's able to save a lot of her people who were supposed to be killed. That's what it's about. Now, okay, now let me just get you. And I would really appreciate if you can ask some questions and all. You could put it on the chat or just unmute and ask. So, Queen Vashti. Queen Vashti was the previous queen before Esther became queen. And what happened was, one day, the king was in high spirit. He had welcomed his guests and courtiers and ministers. And he said, let Queen Vashti be brought out. I want to display her beauty to everyone. Now, in that time, this was something, it was a patriarchal time, because basically it meant that men ruled the society. Now, today, men and women are equal, but that was a time when men ruled the society. And this was something that king could do. He's a king. He did what he wanted. And but it was insulting for Queen Vashti, because she did not want to come and be paraded as if she's an object in front of all the people. And she outrightly refused. And Queen Vashti is really admired by many people, because she took a stand and said, no, I will not be object. This is not a way you treat a woman, that you show her out in front of everyone, as if she's an object. And that's very, very good. But see what happened. Yeah, I'll just, 1 second, I will just share with you. So let me just see if I have got some picture of, yes. Yeah. So let me just show you what happened. See, Queen Vashti, she took a stand, okay? Now, does anyone know what happened to her after she said this? Does anyone know? Anyone remember? She said, no, I will not be objectified. The king has summoned me in front of his friends and courtiers, ministers. I'm not going to go. I'm not that kind of a girl or a lady. And she said, no to it. Does anyone know what happened next? Anyone? The king banished her from the kingdom. Very, very true. Yeah, right. What happened is the king's ministers, actually it was not really the king, his ministers put that petrol that, king, she has insulted you by not coming out. And now if you let her go, all the women in the kingdom will behave in the same way towards their husband. So you have to teach her a lesson. And then they said, let there be a proclamation to have a new queen. And that is how entry became for Queen Esther. Then there was a beauty pageant, beauty contest for the new bride, the new queen, that was announced. But Queen Vashti, so well done, Ryan. So Queen Vashti forever lost her place as a queen. Now, what do we learn from this part? Okay. Now, very often, if you go to an office as a youngster, you will join college and office. Sometimes somebody will tell you to do something which will make you you will feel humiliated. It's not my job, you will say. Somebody will tell you to pick up a file or go and tell someone, some senior will tell you. And then at that time, you will get very upset and you will just say no. But when you do that, what happens is, you might say, I stood for my self-respect. I said no to it. It's not my job. I will not do it. But the other person, but that person, if he is your boss, he will think you have an attitude. You're not humble enough, and he could just fire you straight away. Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? So if you are not willing to, I'm not saying that if somebody constantly humiliates you and makes you do things that you really don't like to do, you can definitely speak to that person and say that you. But if one incident provokes you to lose your temper and you say outright, I refuse to do it, then the consequence of that will be far great. For example, Queen Vashti lost her position as a queen completely. She's never again mentioned. She's admired by some people, but she's never again mentioned. So she, of course, we respect what she did, but sometimes as a young person, I'm just making a connection here. If you lose your temper when somebody tells you to do something which you don't like to do, and if you're not willing to adjust that one time also, and if you say no, it could have a big this in your career. Now, I'm not saying somebody tells you to do something bad, really bad, which is wrong. Definitely you should not do. But some work in the office and you throw an attitude that this is beneath me. I will not do this. It's not my job. You tell the clerk if you. Then at that time, that boss will observe you. Sometimes they might be testing you also to see whether you're a humble person. When they see that, they will demote you or transfer you, or they will. So it's very, very important. I'm not saying you let somebody, rule over your head like this again and again. But what I'm trying to say is you've got to not let someone tick you off to the extent that you lose your place, your position, your job. So that's what it is, so be careful about that. Okay. We admire Queen Vashti for what she did, but we need to be careful about some of these things. Okay. Now here's what happens. Okay. Now for a full, so Queen Vashti is gone, and now the beauty contest is announced. So look for a brand new queen. Now what happens is, now let's go to, this is what happens in chapter 1. So we are just going to pick up small main incidents from each chapter. Okay, welcome, Cheltiel, welcome. So yeah, King Xerxes. Yeah, we can hear your voice. Just mute you. Yeah. Okay. So what happens is King Xerxes is furious. Now, so now Queen Esther is there. Now, this is where I'm going to tell you how to be competitive in this time, how to win. Now, see how Queen Esther wins. Okay. Now, all the beautiful young women in the citadel are brought. They were chosen. Now, she has to win the beauty contest for everyone. So, King's eunuch is in charge of all the women and gives them beauty treatment. Okay. Now, this is what is happening. Now, there was in the citadel, Susa, from Mordecai, a Jew from the tribe of Benjamin, who had a cousin named, Hadessa here. And Mordecai, he basically adopts her as if she's his daughter because there is no father or mother. So Mordecai is a relative, he's a cousin who treats her like a daughter, and he gives her entry. So remember, she's a foreigner in that land. She's a minority. She doesn't know anyone. She might not speak their language. She's not culturally also according to them, but she's trying to gel. So it's just like that. If you're going into a new office, new career, some of you might go to a foreign country. You will compete with people over there, and they'll be far ahead of you because they know everything about that land, about that office and all that culture. So what do you do? How do you win? Let's learn from Esther how she wins that competition to be the queen. Now, What does she do? See, she was very beautiful. She had a lovely figure. Okay, now look what happens. Listen carefully, friends. This is a very, very important secret. It will help you in life. Okay, now when the king's okay, so this was the king's edict. Esther was taken into the harem. Harem was like a palace for all the ladies in competition, where they are supposed to go through beauty treatments so that they can be presented in front of the king. Now see what Esther did. Esther also was taken to the king's palace and entrusted to Haggai. Haggai was the chief beautician who was training all these women for the beauty contest, just like we have Miss India, Miss Universe, whatever, to become the queen. Now she pleased him. She pleased him and won his favor. Now, how do you think she pleased him? How do you think she pleased the beautician? Does anyone know how do you please a mentor, an elder, or your boss in the Christian way? Can anyone tell me? If you want to win favor, her wisdom, okay. Good behavior, Angel, very good. Good answers. Ryan said wisdom, good behavior. Now, suppose I'm your senior, you are all in that beauty contest, Mr. India, Miss India, and I'm supposed to train you. What do you think will impress me most about you? Your wisdom, your good behavior? Come on, come on. Anyone? How do you impress your senior? If you're going in an office, how do you win favor? You know what some people do? Worldly people, what do they do to impress someone? To win their favor? Okay, do what they tell you. Ryan, you kind of got it, but let me, they flatter. Oh, sir, you're very great, sir. Sir, you're very great. False flattery, butter jam. You don't have to do that. Now, Esther, looking at, I'll tell you, I'll give you a clue, because there's a clue mentioned as to what she did. She did exactly what the queen was what the beautician was telling her to. She did not do anything extra. So she was very obedient and humble. So as you know, one of the most difficult thing for young people is to submit to someone, to come under authority. You know, I'm telling you, when you go to your school, college, or any place, you know how some of the students sit in the class. They sit like this, and I'm just kind of pinning myself for that. They sit in the class like this, or they'll put their hands like this, and they will look like that. They're very lazy. So your body language, you know, tells your professor what kind of a student you are. Are you really there to learn, or you're just forced? You're not interested. Also, some of the young people, they like to show they are very extra smart. They know more than their professors. They know more than their senior. And so they always say, I know this, but you know, this happened because of this. So it shows they have an attitude, a very proud attitude. So the best way to win favor is to be obedient. Yes, as some of you said, do what they tell you, good, be humble, be very humble. So that is all that Esther did, and she won favor. So he was keen to make her win. He was keen. Of course, the king was going to judge, but he really liked her. You know, so now see what I'll tell you what she did. Now, I'm sure you are all, you know, your 12th standard and all, and you're competing. So see, he provided her with beauty treatments and special food. He assigned to her 7 female attendants selected from King's Palace and moved her attendants into the best place. So because she won favor, she was immediately rewarded. The best way to impress your senior boss is to be humble. Don't put up an attitude. Some of us are very badly brought up. We are pampered in our homes. So we say, we will not do this, we will not do that. Don't do that. Get rid of that attitude. Now, Esther had not revealed her nationality. As I told you, she was a minority. She was from a foreign land. Every day he walked back and forth near the courtyard. Okay, now see what happened. Now, before a young woman's turn came, she had to complete 12 months of beauty treatment. Okay, this is what the contestants had to do. 6 months with oil of myrrh and 6 months with perfume. So 2 years of training they had to go through before they were presented before the king. Now, anything she wanted to was given to her. So on top of that, they could demand anything they wanted to look beautiful. and it was supplied to them. So 2 years, this beauty contest lasted for 2 years. How did Esther win? So she was humble. Because of that, she was rewarded. He gave her special treatment. Now look at what happens. In the evening, she would go there. Okay, now she would not return to the king. So it depends. If the king pleased, then he'll keep her in the palace, and she would be, okay. Yeah. So that's what has happened. Oh, sorry. I'm a little bit okay. Now see what happens when Esther's turn came. The young woman Mordecai had adopted a daughter. Okay, now look at what she did. She asked, look at this line. She asked for nothing other than what Haggai, the king's eunuch, the chief beautician who was in charge of the harem, suggested to her. She only followed his advice. She did not do anything extra. She did not join extra classes. She did not go and pick up extra books. She did not stress herself trying to do more besides what was told to her. Are you understanding? Today, a lot of students are they are so desperate to win. They are so desperate to score, or they are so desperate to get that promotion that they will never only do what is told to them. They will try to do a lot of extra things. And the process of doing that, they are not faithful to what is told to them. Are you understanding? So that is so how do you glorify God? How do you say God has done this? It is when you depend on God. People who depend on God, they don't do anything extra. Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? They don't stress themselves out. God himself said, I will provide for you. I will make sure you win. You trust in me. Of course, it doesn't mean you become lazy. It doesn't mean you don't do it. You're supposed to do, but do what you're told. Stick to the basics. Work hard. Keep doing what you're supposed. You know what happens during exam time? People do this, they do that, they move, they just don't stick to one thing. And because of that, many people in their exams, they blank out because they're always scared of missing out. They're always scared, oh, I need to study this also. I need to study this also. And they cannot stick to the basic rule. They cannot do what is told to them. So this desperation to win, which is because of fear or greed or competitiveness, worldly, I'm saying, it causes people to actually lose. Esther won because God was with her. She trusted God. She was obedient. She was humble. And she only did what was told, but she did not do anything else. She went through the process of the beauty treatment. She did only that. How did the wise men, Shadrach, Abednego, Meshach, how did they win? How were they chosen? They only ate simple food. They stuck to the Bible. They did not eat all the impure food. And still they looked healthy, handsome, and they were more intelligent than others. So when you are insecure and you try to do this, you're busy round the clock, you don't have time for anyone because you think you have to study so much. Now, I'm saying study, work hard, but do what you're told. Don't try to cover this also and that also. In the process, you become unfaithful to what you're supposed to do in the first place. Are you understanding? So trust God. Do what is told. Stick to your syllabus. Study what is there, and do what is. Just don't try to cover too many things. That's how you win. That's how you win, because you're trusting God with the rest. You're saying, I'm not going to be insecure. I'm not going to run here and there to take my chances. I'm going to do what is told to me, and that's it. I'm going to trust God. And that's what Esther did. And that's how she won. So this is the way you win as a Christian in competitive ways. Don't be insecure. Don't run here and there like Spider-Man. Just stick to what is told to you. Give it your best. Study well. Study hard. But don't become insecure and run all over the world. Try to do many things. You will miss out on what is told to you. Okay, this is the principle that we learn from Esther about winning. Now, the king was attracted to Esther, and of course, Esther won the competition. She becomes the queen, Now, Mordecai uncovers a conspiracy. Now, Mordecai comes to know that there are two people who are wanting to kill the king, assassinate. He immediately warns, and and the plot is foiled. Okay, and those people are punished. Okay, but what Mordecai did is forgotten. So, as a youngster, when you go to an office, a lot of people, they want credit. One thing you will understand when you go to any office, everybody wants recognition. Everybody wants to say, who did this? Oh, I did this. I did this. So everybody wants to do. Mordecai did not do that. Mordecai just did what was important and he left it at that. He did not pursue it. Did the king know about me? Please tell the king, please recommend my name. He did not do that. Whenever you go to any office, you will see there's a lot of fight for credit. Everybody wants. You should never worry about credit. You should always do what is told. You should always be a team person more than an individual identity person, trying to put yourself as the best person. Okay. Now, what happens when when Mordecai does that? He saves the king and it is forgotten. Now we will come to that. But God knows. See, whenever you do something for someone, selflessly to help, God notes it down and God will reward you in due time. We will come to this. This story is incomplete. We will see how God rewards Mordecai. Haman's plot. Now, Haman is this minister who is very greedy and all of that. Now, one of the things that happens is he is very angry because Mordecai does not kneel down before him. Everybody kneels down, but Mordecai would not kneel down. Because, whenever he's sitting at the gate, Mordecai does not kneel down. So he gets very, very angry. Now, very often, you as a youngster will feel when you come across other people in your college or in your office, you will feel people insult you. They don't respect you enough and you will get very angry. They don't talk to me. They turn away and talk to somebody else and you will get very, very upset. You will feel people are doing things to make you. So I'm just asking you to place yourself in the shoes of Haman, because Haman got very angry that Mordecai is not bowing down before. Now, one of the things I will tell you, do you think people will do things purposely to insult you and to upset you? Do you think people will do that to you sometime? Can anyone answer? Do you think this can happen to you? That people will do things to insult you or to humiliate or make you feel disrespect? Do you think this can happen to you? To anyone? I'm asking you. It will happen? Yes, for sure, Sheltil. Thank you so much. It will happen. This is a wild, wild world. They will do things to provoke you. Okay, now Mordecai did not want to respect Haman. He knew he was a bad, but he did not. Now, figure, we are looking at it from Haman's perspective. Now, what should you do? Now, if you are a Christian and somebody insults you, what should you do? Anyone? Will you go and tell that person, hey, if somebody is doing something hurting you, you should definitely go and tell. But if it's a matter of ego and you want someone to respect you, you cannot do that, because respect is earned. It's when you are worthy of respect, that person will respect you. Other than that, if that person is purposely trying to insult you, please remember, you are feeling insulted and you are feeling angry because you don't know your self-worth. That is why you're letting that person affect you. How does it matter if somebody does something and you feel insulted? Why should your joy and your value be determined by that person? Are you understanding? Yes, thank you, Agil, also for backing that up. I have told you many times, young friends, please know your value in Christ. A lot of us are drawing our value from our score, from our marks, from our good looks, from our position, how much salary we earn, or from our friends. But all of this is not enough for your value. You will still feel hurt and upset when somebody disrespects you and such. The best thing to know your value is go to the Word of God and read Ephesians chapter 1 and 2, which tells you that you are a chosen person. You are blessed with all the heavenly in the heavenly realms with all the spiritual blessings through Christ. You are a royal priesthood, a holy nation. You are loved by God. God has lavished his rich grace upon you. Once you know that, once you meditate on the word of God and you know how blessed you are, that God loves you, that God has honored you to be his son, his daughter, and the spiritual blessings of through Christ have come to you. All the spiritual blessings, that you have a place in heaven, you have a place in the royal throne, you are called royal, you are a son and daughter. When you know that about yourself, when you know your value, you will never feel hurt or insulted. Are you understanding? You will automatically want to reach out to that other person and say, hey brother, hey sister, how are you? You will, that person won't even affect you, because you're so full, you're so rich, and you're so filled with love, because you know God honors you so much, that God honors you. If God honors you, you're not worried about dishonor. So please remember that. Okay. Now, of course, I'm just telling you, this is what will happen in the real world. So please go and read Ephesians 1 and 2 and know your value, who you are. Circle those words and know what your value is. Day after they spoke to him, so Haman saw that Mordecai was very, very he was insulting. So Haman decided, he was so mad with Mordecai, he decided that he will hatch a conspiracy to kill all the Jews. So he told King Xerxes that there is a certain people dispersed among the people, all the provinces of your kingdom, who keep themselves separate. They are not following your law. They are not obeying you. So I'm going to pay you money, and you please issue a royal order to kill all these people. So these people are enemies and let them be killed, exterminated on a certain day. So the king agrees. Kings were kings. He was not a Christian king. He doesn't care. His minister is very good to him. They are like friends. He asks for a favor. They don't care about human life. He just passes the order. Now, let me tell you, who was Haman mad, really angry at? He was angry at Mordecai. But he decided to, because Mordecai was a Jew, he decided to kill all the Jews. That is how bad hate is. It is like fire. A person will not only, sometimes you've seen in newspaper, when a person hates one person, he will not only hate that, but he will hate his family also. And sometimes they will attack that family also. Now, let me tell you, as a Christian person, if you go to college, if you go to office, and if you try to insult someone, if you try to play games or you cheat someone, who do you think that person is going to hate? Anyone? Besides you, who do you think that person is going to hate? Anyone? Any answer? Yeah. Welcome, Anita. Yeah. Any answer? You are a Christian, okay? That person knows you are a Christian. And you do some cheating, or you try to teach that person a lesson. You play politics in your college or in the office to insult that person or put that person down. Yes, Sheltil, once again on target. That person will not only hate you, he will hate all Christians. So you are, because of your action, you are going to bring a bad name to all community. That is what has happened also already in our country. When somebody does something foolish, they start hating all Christians are like this, they say. So it's a very, very dangerous thing. Never do that. Never try to attack someone or something, because that hate is like fire. It will not be limited to you. They will hate everyone, and people can be that way. Okay, please remember that. So that's what Haman does. He tries to kill all the Jews. Now, so the couriers are dispatched, and on a certain day, it is marked that all the Jews will be attacked. On that day, we will all come out and kill. Now, Mordecai learns about this, the cousin, and he then, so now look what happens. I think whether it's Esther 4. Yeah, so he goes and he tells Esther, Esther, this has happened. Come on, help us. He sends a message. And Esther also sees that he is now, Esther is, what does Esther see from a balcony? She sees Mordecai sitting with fasting, weeping, wailing. He's put sackcloth and ashes. Now, I'll just make a quick point because I don't have time to explain. What happens is, Mordecai could have saved himself. Mordecai could have said, oh, they're going to kill all the Jews, let me run away. let me leave this kingdom. And or he could have said, he could have told Esther, Esther, do one thing, please take me into the palace, let me become your juice winemaker or something, or I will come and do jhadu pota, and I'll be safe once I'm in the palace. Take me in. But no, Mordecai did not do that. Mordecai, he wept loudly because he wanted to save all the Jews, everybody. He wanted to save his people. Now, do you know how young people today behave? Do young people, do they ever care about the community, or they are mostly obsessed about their individual self? Where do you think they mostly have concern for? Do you hear them saying, it's my life, I will do what I want, I don't care what happens to anybody else? Or do you tell them, do you hear them saying, hey, I need to think about my people, I need to think about my roots, I need to think about my community? What do you think? Where do you think most youth or young are leading? Are they more about individual self, or they are more about community? Let me ask you that. Where do you think they are leading? I'm just asking you in general. Where do you think young people are leaning mostly? What way do they mostly think? Do they think for themselves only, or do they think for everybody? Anyone? Okay. Is it so difficult to understand? Most young people, may not be you, because you are good, but most young people only, yes, Angel, thank you. Most, yeah, right. I was just trying to say, who do you think most young people are concerned about? Are they concerned about their life, their career, their future, their safety, or are they thinking about the community? Are they thinking about other people like Mordecai did? Most young people are always thinking about themselves. It's a huge temptation for them. And as a Christian person, you must always have a heart for everyone. And now you cannot possibly love the whole world, but at least God's people, God's children, you must be able to show love to them. You must care for the church. You must care for the community. You must always think about, how can I help my other friends? Just like I was telling you today, when you join this Bible study, think about whom else you can invite. Just don't be thinking about it, because you'll be blessed by God. God is looking for people, because God's heart is for everyone. And God is looking for people who don't only think about themselves, but think about others. So Mordecai thought about everyone. He could have saved himself, but he says, no, I'm going to protest till Esther sees. And I'm going to tell Esther also to help me save everyone. He could have just saved himself and his, oh, my cousin is there, that's it, I'll save myself. No, but he thought of everybody. Think about what kind of a person are you? Are you always thinking about yourself? At least, do you think about your family? Because sometimes, I'm sorry to say, some youngsters don't even think about their family. The way they eat, the way they plan, the way they enjoy, they just don't care. It comes naturally to them, but that's wrong. Please be someone who thinks about others. That's how we should be. Now, so Mordecai comes and and he puts Esther also on the dock. Now, Esther is afraid. So when Esther is sent the note, she says, Mordecai says, this is what is happening. So she says, I can't just go before the king. The king will put me to death. I can't just go and tell the king, these are my people, save them. Because, so Esther is always thinking, Esther is also like a youngster thinking about her own safety. She's afraid to do. She's afraid because she has not told anyone she's
Bed dala?
Yeah. Kya dala? Somebody's mic is on. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, Angel, yeah, mute yourself. Yeah. So what happens is, so she's worried about herself. I cannot go about. Yes, I know, but I cannot go about my career. I've just become a queen, Baba. I've got such a good path. I cannot leave all that, right? This is how each of us will think, right? I want to just take care of my. So Esther also thinks like that. But look how Mordecai replies to her. He says, do not, these are golden words. These are some of the most famous words in the Bible. And please remember that because this applies to all people. Remember I told you one question. Sorry about that. I'm just making it too much. Okay. He says, do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. What does he say? Don't think you will be the only person to escape just because you're in the king's house. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. You know why? Because these are God's people. God will save them. God is not at your mercy, Esther, he says. Don't think that you can save yourself, and don't think without you, we will not be saved. God will save us. Okay? But you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. And who knows, for you have come to a royal position for such a time as this. Now, what does he tell Esther? He tells Esther, now, for example, if somebody comes to you telling, so if you see your neighbor's house is on your, like you're staying in a house, suppose you're staying in a row house, okay? Row houses are joined. And if your neighbor's house is on fire, and if you say, hey, it's my favorite TV program, on Amazon Prime Video, today this movie is being released, I'm going to see this. I don't care if my neighbor's house is burned. If you have that attitude, what do you think is going to happen? Anyone? If your neighbor's house is on fire, and if you say, I don't care, why? It's not my house is on fire. It's neighbor's house. What will happen? Anybody? What is the date? If you just say it's none of my business, it's not affecting me, why should I care? What will happen? Anyone? Eventually, yes, both the houses, eventually that fire will come and burn you also. This is what happens to selfish people. If you are somebody who does not care when somebody is in trouble and you ignore them, you will go through the same fire. And that is exactly what Christ has done for us. That is not what Christ has done for us. He actually came for us. He could have said, I don't care about this, destroy them. But he came for us. He died on the cross to save us. And we should also be that. We should also be trying to help people. Now, because you're young, you must not immediately get into some place to help. You must prayerfully do that. You must take counsel, wisdom, but your heart should always be to help us. So don't say it's none of my business. And what does he say? He says, God will help, okay? But who knows, you have been given this position. So whatever position you have, dear friends, whether you're rich, you're powerful, any promotion, you're saying, I want to go abroad, I want to become an engineer, a doctor. The one thing why God will give that to you, if you are someone who says, God, with this position, I will glorify your name, I will always serve you and your people. If you say that, God will give it to you. Because this is why God gives people. God does not give places to a position to people so that they can enjoy it for themselves. God doesn't want people to be like that rich man who ignored Lazarus. Lazarus was that beggar, but that rich man did not care about what happened to him. He was enjoying his own life. So don't think you are very cute and that's why God is going to bless you so that you can enjoy it. You should always be a blessing for others. So if you want success in life, if you want to really make it big, if you want a good position, a good job, you want to become rich, please start praying that, Lord, I will serve you and your people, whatever position you give. Give me that heart. Okay, this is how a Christian person is different in his ambition. Others are always thinking about selfish ambition. But as a Christian, you must always say, Lord, lead me to the highest place so I can serve you and your people. That's what is important. Okay. So he tells Esther that, then Esther remembers, oh my God, yes, it is by God's grace I have become a queen and I'm not going to desert my people. Then she decides to do this. Okay, let us go fast. I'm so sorry. Okay, so she says, okay, I'll just tell everyone to fast and pray for me. And that's very important. We must always ask church people, friends, Christian friends to fast and pray. Don't try to be very private, no, I don't want to, it's my battle. No, tell people, come on. If you have a problem, a struggle. So Esther says, please fast and pray. Now what happens is, Esther's request to the queen, I'm going to rush quickly. So she invites, so she goes to the king and she said, tells Mordecai, and he says, tell everyone to fast and pray. Because if I go to the king's place uninvited, he might kill me. He might say, how dare she comes like that? But only way if he extends the golden scepter and says, welcome, then I'm alive. But if I perish, I pray. So she's willing to take that risk. Okay. So as a youngster, as a person, be willing to stick out your neck for others, be willing to, intercede for the people, try to see if you could solve that problem and be a risk taker. If you are someone who always plays it safe, you will never make it big in life. You must be willing to take risk. David took risk to beat Goliath, but he took a calculated risk. He knew that he had defeated the lion and the bear. And so he was able to say, if I can defeat them, I can take on this guy. That's how. So Esther also knew that there was risk involved, but she was taking a calculated risk. She was going to say, I'm a queen, maybe I have some chance. And that's why she's able to go. So yes, do take risks, but try to take a calculated risk. That okay, this is maybe this much is a risk factor. I'm going to go ahead and do it and then do that. Okay. That's what is important. Now we are going fast. Haman went to the, so she goes to and she tells him, I want to invite you and your best friend, your minister Haman, for this banquet. And they eat and drink, and then she doesn't tell them anything. So the king is very happy. He says, tell me what do you want? What do you want? I'll be willing to give you half of my kingdom. The king is so happy with the great food and all that, that she's organized. But she says, no, if you're really happy, come again tomorrow. Next day, she invites him. Now, can you tell me why does Esther not immediately tell the king, this is what is happening? This man here sitting next to you is wanting to kill me and my people. Please do so. Why doesn't she immediately tell him at that? Why does she wait? Anyone? Why does she wait for another time? She said, please, if you're happy, please come up. Anyone? Why does she wait? Why does she, come on, it's first day. He's happy. Let me now tell my complaint. Anyone? Quick, people. You're young, you're brilliant. Anyone? Why does she not use that opportunity to complain to the king? Are ye to khush hai bhaiya, now is the time to strike the iron. Wow, Sheldon, what a beautiful insight. Because the king would have thought it was all a setup and she did it to get a favor. Wow. Superb, Sheldon. What about you're a brilliant guy, man. Yeah. So what basically is happening here? Anybody else wants to give another perspective? Yeah. Now, there could be many reasons, but I'm just throwing in a few. Yes, Shelly, that's very good. Sometimes, when you try to be nice with people and then you immediately ask for a favor, they think, iske liye mere ko bulaya. So Shelly is absolutely right. People do that. So here what we see is Esther practicing diplomacy through hospitality. Hospitality, but diplomacy. Now, what is diplomacy? Diplomacy is putting your point across without really offending the person, and also not really, waiting for the right time to say the right thing. So if the first time she would have said it, so obviously, as Shelton correctly said, the king would have said. Also, she wanted to kind of please the king to work on that relationship. Sometimes what happens is you might call your uncle for a favor suddenly, or you might call your friend for a favor. This guy will think, this person never calls me. He never called me this time. Now he's calling me, he's asking for help. What is this? So you must always be a person of relationship. You must always build your relationship, always bring it or warm up your relationship to that level. And that's what Esther was doing. She was cooking that relationship to come to that level. And also in the meanwhile, you remember she was afraid. She was building her confidence slowly, slowly to reach that. Sometimes diplomacy is actually saying the right thing at the right time when you're absolutely prepared. Okay, so that's what she does. Now, of course, in the Bible you will see, a gift. Bible actually encourages diplomacy. It's a good thing, but I'm not saying cunningness, because it's not. I'm not saying that some people are always doing things in a crooked way for their selfish gain, but here Esther is trying to do this for others. So that's what diplomacy is. For God's reason, you can be a diplomat. Okay, so that's what she does. So she's practicing diplomacy. And then the second time, when the king is again in high spirits, she then finally at the right time, no, okay, now there's a bit of a detour to the story. When they're coming back, Haman gets very angry. He sees this Mordecai just like that. So he puts up a gallows, hanging thing. He said, let me put this gallows, and I will kill Haman tomorrow. And he prepares a place for Haman to be killed. Now, look what happens quickly. We are coming to the close. Yeah, guys, thank you for your patience. Mordecai honored. Now, the night the king could not sleep, he ordered the book of the Chronicles, the record of this. Now, this is where you remember, Mordecai did something good for the king, and everybody forgot about it. One day the king was sleeping, and he did not even bother to take credit or recognition. King was sleeping. He ordered, and he was not able. Sorry, king was not able to sleep, so he wanted to read the history book. So in that book, he discovers that these two people had tried to kill him, and he finds out that Mordecai, and he realizes that Mordecai has not been given any award for this. He asked, "Oh, then that is nothing has been done for us." I said, "How can this be possible? This man saved my life." Then he goes and he tells Haman what must be done about a man who's done something. Then Haman thinks he's talking about himself. So he says, he must be honored and proclaimed. Then that is what the king does. King says, go and get Mordecai, put him on the horseback and take him to the city, proclaiming. Haman is full of shame. He's so upset. He's so bitter. He's so pitiful. Now, this is what I'm trying to say is, when you try to set up a plot for someone, which will happen as you go to office and all that, there are games, people are trying to play games to trap each other. What do we learn here? If you try to set up a trap for someone to fall, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? What happened with Haman? Yeah, with Haman, what happened? He fell into his own trap. When you try to dig a hole for someone else, you will fall into that trap. So because that shows that you are wanting to take revenge, you are wanting to punish someone instead of trusting God, telling God, I'm hurt, I'm upset, I'm handling this situation to God. You are the one who will take my revenge. I will not take revenge. As a Christian, you should not try to play games and target somebody. Sooner or later, that target will be put on you. So don't do that. Don't do that. Don't try to get back at someone. Leave it to God. Pray, surrender, ask God to grieve with you. Now, if that person is again and again doing, then sit down and talk to that person nicely. What do you have against me? If I've hurt you, I'm sorry. I must have also made mistakes. If that person still doesn't do it, the Bible says, take one or two people and talk to them. So you could do that, or you could even talk to a spiritual elder, an elderly friend, and try to solve that issue. But don't try to take revenge. So Haman tries to do harm Mordecai, and he falls into his own trap. Okay. Now we'll look at that, how that happens. And Esther chapter 7. Okay, now Haman is so Queen Esther now is in the second day, and then this is where king is very happy in the second banquet. Then Queen Esther, she said, "Come on, what is your request? Even half." So again, he repeats the same thing, and this is when she says, "For I and the people have been sold to be destroyed and killed. Even if we were made slaves, I would have kept quiet. But they want to kill us, O king. They want to kill us." So king is mad. King Xerxes is mad. He says, who is this person? Who is the one who's doing this? Then she says, it is your adversary, enemy, the vile Haman. And then the king is shattered because the king used to like Haman. He was his close kind of companion and mister. So he's very, very upset. And then Haman is terrified. The king probably leaves the room. He doesn't see. And then Esther was terrified. And, sorry, the Haman is terrified and he tries to save. So he's pleading to the queen. Okay. He's trying to maybe, in one of the films they showed, he's trying to hold her hands and say, please, please help me. But when the king comes back and sees, because the king has kind of left the palace, he's trying to cool himself. But when he comes back and sees that Haman is falling over the queen, he thinks he's molesting her, or assaulting her. And the king gets so angry that he says, he tells the thing, where is that pole? And he says, go and kill Haman there. And then he gets killed. Now, one of the things I'm telling you is, let's learn from everything, not just from Esther, but learn from every character if we can. Now, Haman, in his panic, when he knows that he's busted, what does he do? He tries to save himself. When he tries to save himself, his action in panic, actually, what do you call it? What backfires, it kind of becomes more bad. There's a saying, from the frying pan into the fire, you actually make your situation worse. Now, some of us, when we get into deep trouble, you can still get out of that trouble. But because you panic and what you try to do next in that panic mode will put you in even a bigger trouble. Because Haman's action of trying to eliminate the Jews could have still saved him because the king had liked him. But the king could not tolerate him trying to touch the queen or falling over her. That he could not tolerate, and he killed. So Haman's panic killed him. Are you understand? He's panic, fearful. Now, let me ask you, what do you do when you panic? Suppose something happens, you also, oh, this has happened. How do you behave? Do you start doing things? Do you know when a building catches fire, most people, die because they panic. You must have seen that some of them start jumping from the building and they fall together. They try to catch balcony dangle. When there are things you can do to make yourself safe. You can seal the door with wet cloths to prevent the smoke from coming in. You could just lie low and try to find. If you keep your cool, you could do that. But what kills people is panic. You must not, it's not just about not panicking. The most important thing as a Christian youngster, you should always turn to the Lord. Because always say, God, I am so afraid. Just take a step back and say, Lord, this has happened. I'm so afraid. I'm going to trust in you. I'm going to depend on you. I don't know anything, but I know that you're in control, oh Lord. Please help me. Please help me, Lord. Please help me. And just become still before the Lord. And the Lord, after some time you pray, the Lord will automatically impress on you what to do. If you can't even find that thing to be calm at that moment, at least call a good Christian elder mentor. Now, all of you need some people to turn to, in your plan, and you must have some elder or a mentor. You must be willing to be trained, as Esther was willing to be trained under the beautician. She was willing to submit to Mordecai. She did not forget Mordecai. So you must have an elder mentor who can guide you in your personal. If you are always alone, and sometimes you can't talk to your parents, so you need some good Christian elder, mentor to help you. So that person you can call. If you can't pray, you're panicking, at least call and tell, and that person will guide. I have done that. Sometimes I have panicked, and I've immediately called my mentor and said, so what to do now? I'm really, I don't know what to do. Because sometimes I'm not even patient to pray. Yes, at times I pray and God, but sometimes you are so much panicked, you're so fearful. You just need, so that's what has happened. And then, so please remember that. So his panic actually kills him. Now we go to Esther chapter 8, the last chapter, and then he's killed. And then we see that King Xerxes then, is able to, he gives Queen Esther the estate, and it's all happy ending. She, and then she begs him And she says, now you have that, remember you passed that rule to kill all the Jews. Now please pass another rule, another law, that the Jews have a right to defend themselves. So he says, yes, I will do that, because he cannot just cancel what he's passed. So he passes another law, and then he is able to save all the people, because what that gives power to all the Jews to be ready when their enemies attack, and they can attack them instead, and defend themselves. So that's how the Jews are able to kill and or ward off the threat. And then of course, then everything is, they live happily ever after. The Jews are triumphant, and even till this day, that day that Esther delivered the Jews, saved the people, is called Purim, and it is celebrated in Israel. Let me ask you, how did the people, of course, God saved them, God was working in the background, God was there. But what really helped the Jewish people, or who really helped the Jewish people win or save themselves? Anyone? What was their connection that helped them correctly at that time? God was there, but who was in the human figure that actually helped the Jewish people save their lives? Anyone? Anyone? Quickly. Who was that person? You might say Mordecai, okay, but it's not Mordecai. It is Queen Esther herself. It is Esther herself, because if not Mordecai, she must have read in the paper or something, and she could have heard, and she could have tormented. She could have thought about it. She would have had a dream, and something would have. But it's Esther. Why Esther could save? Any idea why she could save? Why was Esther able to save her people? What was special about her? Come on, quickly, guys. We are in the closing time. We are already exceeding. Quickly. Anyone? Why was she able to save? What was in that position? She was at the right place of position. Yes, she was having the power to do that. She had a power. She was a queen, and she had access to the king. And she could be in that position to speak up and save people. So let me tell you, who in our country, which person in our country, and I hope you're all Indians, was able to save his people from being completely crushed because he was in a place of position. She took a stand for people. Yes, very good, very good. She took a stand. But who was in our nation of India was able to save a lot of people? I'm not talking about Christians, but he was able to save a lot of people from being completely crushed. Not killed, but they were already crushed. They had no rights. They were the most servant people. Everybody hated them, despised. Who was the one person from that community who rose? Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Excellent Shelton. God bless you. Baba Sahib Ambedkar rose to a position to be in the parliament. He wrote the constitution, and he gave rights to his people. He also gave rights to women, by the way. So very, very important. Dear friends, one of the things, if you really want to make a big impact, if you want to be the salt and the light, some of you must rise to the position of being, to go into the parliament. And that's why we had some of these sessions last time. On politics, you might think, what is wrong with church and pastor? Politics is the new mission field. If you can rise through the structures of power and become a minister in the parliament, who knows, if you can become a prime, you can do a world of good for so many people, not just Christians, even for the poor. You can pass policies and have big impact. A lot of youngsters today are thinking of just themselves. They want to become a big shot, a corporate guy, a rich guy, or a girl. But if you can just pray and say that, Lord, if it's your will that you want me to be like Queen Esther, get into a position, then I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. Nonetheless, whatever position you have, even as an officer, you can always try to help your people. I remember when as a teenager, I went, one place, and that, I was looking for a job, and one of the person heard there's a Christian boy looking for a job, and he had called me at that time. It was just an internship summer job. And he interviewed. I remember that person. He had a heart to help his people. It really helped, because we are already so few in this land. We're just 2.34% or something like that in this country. And we must help each other first before we help others. So whatever position and power you have, you must use it to help your people. Very important. And of course, Queen Esther was able to do that. So do look at, if you have an aspiration to get into politics, to be in a places of, like a student leader now, it's a good aspiration. It's not a bad aspiration. Let me tell you that God can use you, elevate you to help a lot of people, especially his people. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. May God bless you. If you have any more feedback, please share it with me later. Okay, let me just pray and end this. Lord, thank you so much for this wonderful lesson of Esther. And Lord, we really pray that you will help us, Lord, and speak to us from this life story of Esther. And also whatever that's just pricked us today, may your Holy Spirit continue to haunt us and even speak to us and challenge us more and more in that area. Thank you for this time. May you bless each and every youngster here in a special way and use them for your kingdom and glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay.